The ramp dropped. 3 men stepped off. All 3 were dead before they hit the water. That's when I knew none of us were getting off this beach alive. My name is Private James Henderson. I was 19 years old. June 6th, 1944. First wave, Omaha Beach. And what I'm about to tell you, they never put this in the history books. Of the 200 men in my company that morning, only 30 walked off that beach. I was one of them. But what happened in those first 10 minutes? That's the part nobody talks about. It all started on the boat. 6:30 a.m. The English Channel was hell before we even reached France. The waves were 6 feet high, maybe higher. Men were vomiting everywhere. The smell was a mix of diesel fuel, salt water, and fear. You could actually smell the fear. I was crammed in the middle of our landing craft, my rifle between my knees, trying not to look at anyone. Some guys were praying, some were quietly crying. Our officer, Lieutenant Davis, just kept repeating it over and over. Stay low, move fast, get off the beach. But here's the thing they never tell you about that boat ride. Even from a mile out, we could hear it. We could hear the machine guns. It was a constant ripping sound, like someone tearing a giant sheet of fabric. On and on and on. Corporal Miller, a guy I'd gotten to know, leaned over and whispered, "See you on the other side." Kid. I didn't realize he meant the other side of life. Then, through the morning mist, we saw them. The cliffs of Normandy, the German bunkers, and something else, something that made my blood run cold. Other boats, dozens of them. They were on fire, sinking. Bodies were floating in the water all around them. The Navy had told us they'd softened up the German defenses with heavy bombardment. They had either lied or they had missed. Either way, we were about to find out just how wrong they were. The coxswain screamed, 30 seconds! My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst right out of my chest. I gripped my rifle, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. 20 seconds. I glanced over at Miller. He just gave me a nod. Not a dramatic movie-style nod, just an acknowledgement. A silent promise that we were in this together. 10 seconds. The boat lurched violently. We'd hit the sandbar. But we weren't at the beach yet. We were still 100 yards out. In deep water, then the ramp dropped. The sound was deafening. An immediate storm of machine gun fire poured through that open ramp like a waterfall of death. The first man off, Private Cooper, his helmet just flew off his head. He crumpled like a puppet whose strings had been cut. The second man, I never even saw his face. He was just gone. The third man was Corporal Miller, the man who had just spoken to me. A bullet hit him right in the throat. He grabbed his neck, stumbled sideways, and fell into the water. 3 seconds. 3 men dead. Lieutenant Davis was screaming behind us, shoving us forward. Go! 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 So I jumped, and I went straight under. Here's another thing the movies get wrong, the water. I was carrying over 60 pounds of equipment. My rifle, ammunition, grenades, rations, an entrenching tool. All of it. The moment I hit that water, I sank like a stone. It was maybe 4 feet deep, but it might as well have been 40. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see anything. I was drowning before I even had a chance to fight. Panicked, I dropped my rifle. I had to. I clawed at the straps of my pack, desperate for air. My lungs were on fire. Finally, my head broke the surface. I gasped for air, choked on salt water, and gasped again. And all around me, men were drowning. Not shot, just drowning. Pulled under by the weight of their own gear. I could hear them screaming, thrashing in the water, and then disappearing beneath the surface. And the water, that's what I remember most vividly. The water wasn't blue anymore. It was red. I started wading toward the beach. Bullets were snapping past my head with a sharp crack. It sounded like angry hornets whizzing by, except hornets don't kill you. A bullet hit the water just inches from my face, and the splash hit me in the eyes. It was a sting of salt water and blood. I just kept moving. What else was there to do? When my feet finally hit the sand, I thought to myself, I made it. I was wrong. The beach was so much worse. Bodies were everywhere. Floating in the surf, lying on the sand. Some were moving, some were not. And the sound? God, the sound. It wasn't gunfire that I remember most from that moment. It was the screaming, men screaming. Not words, just pure animal sounds of agony. I dove for cover behind one of those big steel beach obstacles, those metal crosses the Germans had planted in the sand. 3 other soldiers were already huddled there. I didn't know any of them. One guy's leg was completely shredded. I could see the bone showing through. He was trying to tie a tourniquet, but his hands were shaking too badly. I asked him, "Where's your medic?" He just laughed, an empty, hollow laugh. "Dead," he said. "They're all dead. First-wave medics are always the first to die. Those red crosses on their helmets just make good targets." That's when it hit me. There was no help coming, no rescue. No reinforcements were going to magically appear. We were completely alone. The German bunkers up on the cliffs had perfect fields of fire. They could see every single inch of that beach, every man, and we couldn't see them. All we saw were the muzzle flashes coming from narrow concrete slits. Machine gun fire, mortar fire, artillery. All of it was aimed directly at us. A mortar shell landed about 20 feet to my left. The explosion threw sand and shrapnel everywhere. My hearing just went silent, replaced by a loud, endless ringing. When the sand settled, the soldier with the shredded leg wasn't moving anymore. That was Omaha Beach. That was the first 10 minutes. The story they never told you. Thank you for listening to this story. It's important that we remember what these young men went through beyond what we see in movies or read in textbooks. Their sacrifice was real, and it was brutal. If you found this story meaningful, please like this video and subscribe for more untold stories from history. We must never forget. "We gotta move," someone yelled. I couldn't hear him over the chaos. I could just see his mouth moving. He pointed. The seawall, a concrete barrier about 200 yards up the beach. If we could just get there, we'd have cover, real cover. 200 yards, it might as well have been 200 miles. But staying here meant certain death. Moving meant probable death. At least moving gave you a chance. On 3. The soldier yelled, 1, 2. A bullet hit him square in the face. He just dropped. I didn't wait for 3. I ran. Imagine running through the worst nightmare you've ever had. That's what it was like. Your legs feel like they're made of lead. Time seems to stretch and warp, moving in slow motion. You can actually see the bullets hitting the sand around you, kicking up little puffs of dust, getting closer and closer with every step. I ran past a burning tank. Men were trapped inside, screaming. I couldn't help them. I ran past the soldier crawling on his belly, dragging his useless legs behind him. He reached out to me as I passed. I kept running. I'm not proud of that, but stopping for even a second meant dying. And I wanted to live. A bullet hit my helmet. I heard the sharp ping and felt the brutal impact. My helmet flew off, but I didn't stop. I didn't even slow down. Another bullet ripped through my backpack. It felt like someone had punched me clean in the back. But I kept running, 30 yards to the wall. 20 yards, 10. I dove. I hit the ground hard, rolling against the cold concrete. Safe. I thought I was safe. What a joke. Nothing on that beach was safe. I risked a look back at the beach. And that's when I saw it. The true, staggering cost of this invasion. Bodies. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, covering the sand like driftwood after a storm. Some were face down. Some were face up, their eyes wide open, staring blankly at the sky. Some were in pieces. The tide was coming in. The water lapped at the shore, and the bodies were starting to float, bobbing in the surf like corks. I saw Lieutenant Davis. He'd made it off the boat. He'd made it through the water. He'd made it halfway up the beach. And then, a mortar shell. A direct hit. There wasn't enough left of him to bury. I saw Private Johnson, that kid from Texas who couldn't stop talking about his girlfriend back home. He was floating face down in 2 feet of water, dead. Drowned or shot. Did it even matter which? This was Omaha Beach. This was what it actually looked like. Not glory, not heroism, just death. Industrial scale death. But here's the thing that nobody tells you, the part they leave out of the movies. We were losing, badly. By 8 a.m., we were still pinned down at the seawall. We had made no progress. No reinforcements were getting through. The Germans were winning. They had us. So what changed everything? I'll tell you. But first, you need to understand most of the men who saved D-Day, who turned the tide, never got credit. They never got medals. Their names are not remembered in history books. It was 8:30 a.m. We'd been on that beach for 2 hours, but it felt like 2 years. Then I saw him. Brigadier General Norman Cota. He was walking. Actually walking along the seawall in the open while bullets were hitting the fan and concrete all around him. He was just walking. He looked at us, a collection of exhausted, terrified, beaten men, and he shouted at the top of his lungs, "Two kinds of people are staying on this beach, the dead and those who are going to die. Now let's get the hell out of here." That's all it took. One man. One moment of what looked like insane bravery. Something shifted in all of us. Engineers blew holes in the barbed wire with Bangalore torpedoes. We started finding paths through the minefields, sometimes by the grim method of watching other men step on them and marking where they died. Small groups started moving up the cliffs, through the draws, inch by agonizing inch. I followed a sergeant I'd never seen before. We crawled on our bellies through a ravine, with Germans shooting down at us from above. We threw grenades up at them, fired blindly, and just kept moving forward. By noon, we'd taken the first bunker. By 2 p.m., we held the cliffs. By evening, Omaha Beach was ours. The cost. That night, I sat on top of the cliff and looked down at the beach below. The tide had gone out again. The sand was a graveyard, covered with abandoned equipment, wrecked vehicles, and bodies. So many bodies. 2,400 men died, were wounded, or went missing at Omaha Beach that day. My company, Company A of the 116th Infantry, lost 96% of its men in the first hour. 96%. I survived. But everyone I knew, everyone I had trained with and crossed the ocean with, died. Corporal Miller, Private Johnson, Lieutenant Davis, all of them, gone. Why me? Why did I live when so many better, braver men died? I've asked myself that question every day for 80 years. I don't have an answer. I wasn't braver. I wasn't smarter. I was just lucky. And I've carried that guilt with me ever since. The history books call D-Day the turning point of the war. They talk about strategy and tactics. They talk about the bravery of the Allied forces, and it was brave, no doubt about it. But it was also butchery. They don't tell you about the smell. The unforgettable smell of burning flesh mixed with seawater and gunpowder. I can still smell it sometimes. They don't tell you about the sounds of men crying for their mothers, in English and German. It turns out suffering sounds the same in every language. They don't tell you that war isn't glorious. It's not noble, it's just necessary sometimes. And it is always, always ugly. I'm 99 years old now. Most of us who were there are gone. Soon. There won't be anyone left who remembers what it was really like. So I'm telling you now, not because I think I'm a hero. I'm not. I'm just a man who lived when others died. So please remember them. Remember Corporal Miller. Remember Lieutenant Davis. Remember the 2,400 men who never came home from that one beach on that one day. They were brave. They were terrified. Many of them were just 19 years old, and they saved the world. Thank you for listening.